this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video on Hermitcraft Genesis. We are reading book 4, Perspective of Impulse. We are in chapter 9. I plan to get through chapter 9 and 10 today, although we might go past that, depending on when I decide I want to leave you in a cliffhanger. Yeah, it just depends on how long I can handle it and all that stuff. So, yeah. Let's get right into it. There are captions that are available if you are interested in just reading along while you watch me build a pattern. It's fine. Yeah. Or you can just do your laundry, do chores while you listen. Like the playlist is down there. The next video, when it comes out, will be also down there. The link to that. I did a little bit of updating so I could have the same thing happen. Because, I have not been keeping up. But, yeah. I'm rambling. You want to get to the story. And Dazzler wants to get into the story. So, let's go. Chapter 9. The late afternoon sunlight poured in through the curtained window as Impulse reached up toward one of the hidden cameras he'd set up many weeks before. He stood on a wooden chair, Scar and Blake a few feet behind him. He could feel their eyes on him as he plucked the camera from its place and jumped down to the hardwood floor. Impulse looked at the gadget he held in his hands. "This shouldn't take long, right?" Blake asked. The hermit looked up at the 16-year-old boy. "You're supposed to be resting." "I'll be fine," Impulse insisted with a weak smile. Sitting down on the wooden chair, he placed the camera on the table, turning it over so he could take a look at the back. "What happens when the regen wears off?" Blake questioned. "Be careful." Impulse removed the back of the camera, examining the redstone wiring inside. "Can't rest until I figure this out anyway." "It's not your fault." "It's not, but I just can't let someone get hurt because of something so trivial." "That's not the only reason," Scar replied. "It wasn't a question." Impulse sighed. "You think I could strap a gas blaster on the back of the wheelchair?" Impulse offered, glancing back to raise an eyebrow at his friend. Scar shrugged. "It might work, but it won't be able to help much if I can't move my chair very far." Impulse closed his eyes and shook his head. "How's your sword skills?" "Fine," Scar mused, patting something on his chair. "There's a spot where I might be able to hide one without needing redstone." "Then we'll work out a way to practice," Impulse replied. "It'll be back up in case I don't figure it out in time." "I know you're trying. That's all you can do right now." Impulse looked down at the camera again in silence. "Besides, Caleb won't let anything happen to me. You know that." Impulse nodded. Just hope we're not separated again." "I go where you go," Blake said firmly. "Now that we know what they're doing to get in, we'll make sure it can't happen again." "No one can promise that," Impulse admitted, returning the back of the camera, securing it back in place. "I can't see anything wrong with the camera, just like the communicator. It's like they have some sort of null blocking the signal." "It's the best explanation," Blake agreed calmly. "Maybe Sam was able to snatch up one of those gadgets," Scar pointed out. "I hope so, because I don't know what to do otherwise." Impulse shook his head slowly. He felt a hand rest on his shoulder as he looked over to see Blake standing beside him. "You can only do your best." "What can I do when I can't stop them from compromising the security? The cameras, Scar's wheelchair." Impulse clenched his fist on the table. "It only takes a moment for them to surround us. A moment when they have control. Rhinestone and her friends want to stop us from getting in her way. She wants to erase humankind." "And YouTubers," Blake whispered. "She wants to destroy them as much as Mr. A and RJ did. Then it'll only be her new human race left. YouTubers would have to hide. No one would be safe." "I'm not gonna let that happen," Blake insisted. "YouTubers, hybrids, and humans can work together. Hasn't that already been proven? Impulse smiled weakly. I guess so. I'll be okay. We all will. Scarlet said matter-of-factly. Trust me. Do all you can to make this work, and I'll do my part to help. Even if your chair isn't working? Impulse looked over at his friend. Scar nodded. Chair or no chair, I'm still Hawkeye. I'm not going to let those goons take everything from me. Not without a fight. Impulse nodded solemnly, giving his friend a smile. I'll do everything I can to help. I know you will. Scar agreed, glancing over his shoulder, briefly turning his chair back toward the hole. Did you hear something? Blake frowned. It's fine. Scar shook his head as Jelly strolled in from the kitchen, meowing at the trio impatiently. I think the others are waking up. Get ready for some chaos, I suppose. Impulse rose to his feet, gently scratching Jelly behind the ears before walking toward the 2 bedrooms. Was Matthias awake yet? Clara? Were any of the other teens up? His fellow hermits? A wave of unease trickled into his mind as another thought slipped through the cracks. And come back to finish what they started? You didn't miss much. You didn't miss much. Skiz chuckled. Impulse rounded the corner, standing in a hole with Eliza and his best friend, were B-Dubs and Liam. Impulse could hear more noises in the sleepover room. Just some jerks trying to hurt some of us. Should have been there, Liam said quietly. It was the wee hours of the morning, and you were exhausted, Eliza pointed out. Of course, Liam agreed, looking over at B-Dubs. The hermit was still looking into the bedroom, frowning. Everyone's waking up? Impulse guessed, walking toward his friends. Impulse? B-Dubs looked away from the bedroom, spotting the hermit, his gray eyes widening. You're okay? I heard you were ambushed. Fine, Impulse replied, seeing Skiz's arch an eyebrow curiously. Nothing some potions and rust can handle. Yeah. You were given a direct blast from a gas blaster, Skiz said sternly. Need rest. I'm trying to figure out how the men were able to disable our technology. I'm sure Liquid Bubbles can take a look at it. Liam narrowed his eyes at the hermit. You still don't look great. I'd love to, B-Dubs beamed. Maybe there's something you missed. Good luck finding it if there is, Impulse sighed, shaking his head. The gadgets themselves weren't touched. Something just blocked their signal. Oh, B-Dubs' smile fell. Maybe I can recreate it, so we can find out how to prevent it? We could try, Impulse nodded. I can't risk having Scar's chair malfunction again. Wait, what? B-Dubs gasped as Liam's frown grew deeper. Scar wants to see if he can find other ways to defend himself and others without using redstone, Impulse offered, just in case it happens again. That's a good idea, Eliza said. And we interns should probably figure out who we're sticking with anyway as well. We can't risk any of you being alone if they come back. Oh, they will, Impulse stated. They didn't get to finish what they started, and Gerald wants revenge. He won't stop until we're all dead. B-Dubs failed. But I thought he was dead. Whatever is left of him is tormenting Kate. We're going to do some practicing upstairs, if that's okay, Jem said calmly, her green eyes filled with determination. We both looked past her, seeing all of the beds, apart from one, were unoccupied. Green was still fast asleep in bed, unmoving apart from his steady breathing. Was he dealing with nightmares? Was Gerald targeting him now? Impulse shuddered, pushing those questions out of his mind. If Green needed help, he would be there. See if Clara and Matthias are awake, Liam said simply. I don't want you going up there alone. We've got the interns, Jem said simply. We've lost too much time already. We have, Eliza stated, looking over at Impulse. Someone needs to stay with Green. Haley and I can do that, Liam said quickly. I can make sure his recovery is running smoothly. His gaze moved to Impulse. And you need some rest. I'm fine, Impulse insisted. Liam shook his head. If what Skiz told me is true, you're not fine. The potion will wear off. Last thing I want is to slow down your recovery because you pushed yourself too hard. I can't just... Luke and I have it taken care of, B-Dubs promised. His eyes met the other hermit. We'll get to the bottom of it. Get some rest. Impulse sighed, watching as Jem, Pearl, and Joel walked down the hallway toward the elevator with Josh, Isaac, and Caleb behind them. Caleb glanced back nervously, receiving a nod from Liam. An unspoken word. An unspoken promise. Come on. Liam grabbed the hermit's arm gently, pulling him into the room. Some rest will do you some good. Just waiting to hear back from Sam about his mission, Impulse muttered quietly, hoping the excuse would make the boy relent. Liam didn't slow down or let go. We'll take care of it, Liam said firmly, gently pushing Impulse to sit on the bed. You don't have to do everything. You did enough. We couldn't protect either of them. Tears burned in Impulse's eyes as he shook his head. I shouldn't have let them get a chance to hurt Green. Green will be okay, Liam said, his sky-blue eyes filled with determination. It wasn't your job to protect him anyway. It's my fault. I should have woken up Blake. I just thought none of us could have known this would happen. Even when Kate warned us, Paul swallowed. Liam smiled sadly. Yes, but you have to trust that if they hadn't given us the sleeping potion, we would have come. Paul nodded. I do believe that. Well, you know what to do next time, Liam chuckled, gesturing to the bed. Now please, get some sleep. Impulse glanced down at the bed, at the white fluffy pillow, calling out to him, promising him that he'd be safe, that his friends would be safe. Blick and Skiz weren't far. Liam and Haley would be here as well. Nothing bad would happen. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard the front door open, followed by voices. Familiar voices. He rose to his feet before Liam could stop him. Rushing to the door, he heard Scar's happy chuckle, in time to see Caitlin and Kimberly tackling Scar into a tight hug. Sam, Aiden, and Aaron stood at the door, watching the scene unfold with smiles. Chapter 10. Impulse stood in the entryway, watching his fellow hermit and the young teenage girl embrace. Is it teenage? No, it says teenage. Blah. He could hear someone approaching from behind him, but he didn't turn around. Even when he felt a hand on his shoulder, he couldn't take his eyes off the girl. Kate didn't have a mark on her. No cuts, bruises, nothing that hinted at any pain or injury. Or tears filling her stormy gray eyes as she pulled away from Scar. Dark forest green was long gone. So, it wasn't a dream world thing after all. Lapis dust had changed her. Had it? Are you okay? You're not hurt? Kate asked Scar, looking him up and down before taking a step back. I should have asked that first before I... It's okay, Scar said gently, reaching for the girl's hand, taking it. He didn't hurt me. Kate shook her head, pulling her hand away. You sure? He wasn't hurt in the attack, Blake said simply. He stood by beat-ups and looked by the window. How? Why? Kate insisted. Behind her, Sam and the interns with him stepped into the room, the door closing behind them. Why would Gerald just leave you alone when he hates you so much? He didn't leave him alone, Impulse said dryly. The girl whipped her head around in his direction, her eyes widening when she saw him. Gerald didn't let him forget what happened. But Kate shook her head again. It's not like he hasn't done it before when he was alive, Scar pointed out. Tried to make me believe my friends were gone. Never alone. You're not alone, Kate snapped firmly. Spark blazed in her eyes. I know, but he tried. And almost succeeded. I'm sorry. Kate lowered her head. Everyone's safe, that's all that matters. Scar pushed his chair to sit beside the girl. Yes, people were hurt, but we'll be ready when they come back. She nodded, staring at her feet. They told me what they did to you. Tears began slipping down her face. They bragged about how clever they were, just walking in there and so that they could... I'm guessing they omitted the fat part where Tango and Tyler swooped in and saved the day. Scar smirked. Kate looked at Ugh. Kate looked over at him before looking at Impulse. How? They made sure the communicators were blocked. There was no way to send a signal. Impulse smiled, placing a hand over his chest. I don't necessarily need a communicator to call for help. Oh, it must have been subconsciously. I don't remember doing it, Impulse admitted, looking over at Sam, Aiden, and Aaron. Thank you for getting her back here safely. We're glad we can help, Aaron nodded. And we're here if you need us again. Thank you, Liam spoke, appearing from behind the hermit. Impulse felt a pressure on his shoulder release. We're good on the reunions here. I was trying to get Impulse to rest. Sam smirked. Long day? I want to figure out how they blocked the signal, Impulse insisted. Like Rhinestone and Skies did when they went after Kate. What do you mean? Kate asked. Carl told us when he went to check on the camera feed, some footage was missing, Impulse replied. Same thing happened when 3 of her men walked in from the back door and doused us with sleeping potions. I managed to push Green out of the way, but they went after you anyway, Kate finished, clenching her fists. We should have stayed together, Impulse insisted. I thought Scar would have been able to put up his force field or get out of range with his wheelchair, but it malfunctioned too. I'm not sure it would have made a difference, Scar admitted. It would have taken all 3 of us and done much worse than they did. Who would stop them? Impulse closed his eyes, letting out a heavy sigh. That was the initial plan, wasn't it? Makes sense. They doused me with a potion too, Kate grumbled. You surprised them. Gives even more reason for Clara's rule of 2, Liam said flatly. No one should be left alone at any given time. 2 wasn't even enough, Impulse groaned. No matter how many of us are there, if they catch us by surprise, they'll take control of the situation. But you and Green are okay? Kate asked softly. Their eyes met. Yeah, we're okay. Impulse smiled sadly. I mean, if Kate's giving Green an enchanted apple variant of the antidote, yes, Blake said with a shake of his head. Wait, what? Impulse looked over at his protector. Those are hard to get. You only think that worked, Blake replied. Can't go into great detail about how bad it was. It was bad. Impulse shuddered. How long will we be out? I don't know. Can I see him? Kate asked. Impulse looked over at Liam. The boy nodded. Impulse needs to get some rest anyway. We can take you to him. Seriously, I feel fine, Impulse insisted, touching himself, rubbing his chest gingerly. Only felt a little sore now, but he could handle that. He took a direct blast from a gas blaster. Liam frowned. The regen can only do so much to take away the pain. Pain? Kate's brow furrowed. It's not that bad, Impulse replied. I didn't seem to think so. Blake glanced at his charge. Serious burns. If they hadn't put you out, it would have been worse. But I really am. Impulse yelped as Liam grabbed him firmly, dragging him back in the hallway. Doctor's orders, Liam said simply. No hint of an apology in his tone. Impulse glanced back to see Kate right behind him. She was frowning as Liam dragged him into the sleepover room, pushing the hermit gently into his bed. Get some rest. But Impulse struggled to sit up as Liam pushed him onto the bed, forcing him to lie down. Make me get a sleeping potion, Liam warned, looming over the hermit. I will do it. I doubt you would, Impulse mumbled, letting his head rest against the pillow, looking behind the boy to see Kate kneeling beside Green's bed. The girl was still as a statue, not moving her eyes from the hermit. You'll feel better in a few days, promise, Liam said calmly. But you will heal faster if you rest. You just want to. I know, Liam smiled. I know you do. You will. Try to be patient. I don't know when they'll come back, Impulse mumbled. Or if the defectors will come back for one of us. Liam shook his head. Promise was made, and that promise we will keep. That's why the protectors are here. Why we have the interns. To keep you and your friends safe. That's what matters. Impulse smiled. Thank you. Get some sleep. Impulse. Excuse me. Liam pressed with a smirk. He pulled the covers up, cocooning the hermit in a bright yellow blanket. Impulse closed his eyes. There was no point in fighting. In the bright yellow blanket. Apologies. Wrong article. There was no point in fighting. He knew he could have overpowered the boy if he was at his full strength. Perhaps that was the point. Maybe his friends were right. They could take care of it. He had to believe it. Chapter 11. The sleepover room was dark. Impulse stared up at the ceiling. Dying moonlight stretching across from one side of the room to the other. He doubted he'd be able to do much, at least not until Liam gave him the okay. Oh, Dazzler! He wasn't sure how long he'd been lying awake. An hour? 2 hours? What had even woken him up? He heard the silent sounds of his friends sleeping. Impulse watched the fading moonlight, the shadows thick and heavy around him, like hands clenching toward his throat, the angry gray eyes of a man tired of dealing with him. All he wanted was to protect his friends from him. Impulse shook the thought away. Shadows weren't moving. His mind was playing tricks on him. It hadn't even been a day since Rhinestone sent those sharks to attack them. What was she planning now? And how would he be able to stop it? She'd practically made everything he'd spent tireless hours on pointless, useless. Maybe Doc would have better luck with her. That his plan would prevent her from hurting any of them again. Tango was confident about his fellow hermit's plan. Then again, perhaps they were working together, determined to make Rhinestone pay for what she'd done to them, finishing what she started. But would it be enough? It had to be. Impulses were when his thoughts halted to the soft creak of a bed grabbed his attention, followed by footsteps. Glanced over, Kate slunk toward the bedroom door, cautiously pushing it open. He frowned. What's she doing up? If anything, she should be resting even more than he should after a week of nightmares. But hadn't he promised he'd help her with that? Had Scar pitched in to help her instead? Someone else? Was she trying to deal with it on her own? Kate disappeared from sight, leaving the sleepover room door wide open. Impulse saw the main hallway, glowing dimly in the torchlight. No one was keeping watch by the door. Otherwise, they would have caught Kate sneaking off. What's the girl doing? Impulse groaned, sitting up as he wiped sleepers from his eyes. He glanced over at Liam momentarily, checking to make sure the boy was asleep. He was confident Liam would insist he stay in bed and rest. Sure, he only felt a little sore, but it was normal to feel when one had a metal blaster pinned to his chest. He had more than just a direct blast from the gas blaster. Impulse sighed, wincing as he pushed his covers aside, rising to his feet before heading toward the door himself, pausing at the doorframe as he looked back at his fence. His eyes finally rested on his protector. Blake was sound asleep, his expression gentle, but peaceful. Impulse frowned. He almost didn't want to wake him, but was it worth the risk? Rhinestone could be waiting for a time like this. How soon? Impulse took a step away from the door, kneeling beside Blake's bed, hesitating. It's hardly been a day. Wouldn't anyone take an opportunity that was handed to them? Impulse bit his bottom lip. Was he arguing with himself now? Seriously? He couldn't leave Kate by herself, especially not with Gerald constantly in her head. What if the man convinced her to do something? Or worse, took control of her? What if he had taken control of her? Was that even possible? Impulse pushed the thoughts out of his mind and gently shook Blake's shoulder gently. It only took a couple of tries before Blake groaned, opening his eyes. You should be resting, Blake said softly, sitting up in bed. You couldn't sleep, Impulse admitted. Too much on your mind? Yeah, you could say that. Blake nodded, pushing his covers aside. And? Impulse bit his bottom lip again. Kate snuck out of the room. I don't want to leave her out there on her own. Not when Rhinestone. I get it. Blake smiled. Rule of 2. Impulse got to his feet, heading for the bedroom door, before glancing back. Blake got out of bed, heading toward him, as the hermit left the sleeper room. Impulse took in the hallway before he heard a soft voice in the kitchen. He followed the sound, finding the door, too, was wide open. How many late-night snacks have you had since all of this started? Kate giggled. She was sitting on one of the wooden chairs beside the counter, with a gray and white cat on her lap. The girl was stroking the feline as Jelly purred, content with the late-night snuggles. What are you going to do when everything goes back to normal? Jelly didn't give a response, other than her content purring. Kate? Impulse stepped into the kitchen. Kate looked up, her eyes widening with surprise. You're awake? He's usually awake at crack of dawn working on his projects. Blake smirked by the doorway. You should know that by now. But the attack, the blast. Kate swallowed. She glanced back down at the jelly on her lap. I got some good rest. Impulse assured her. Sleeping potions don't really count. Kate nodded. You're okay? I don't want you to be alone out here, Impulse admitted. Not when Rhinestone is watching the base. Kate bit her bottom lip. Bottom lip biting. She has what she wants from me. I'm not her target anymore. But she recruited you for her cause, Impulse pointed out. I didn't give an oath or anything. Kate shook her head. I had no choice. She put me in that machine and expected me to just do what she said. Expected me to be all in like I'm some sort of mini Gerald pet. You're not him. Impulse crossed the room to stand beside the girl. You're nothing like him. Tell that to him, she spat. He told me that we had many things in common. I was part of him. You're not. You're the smartest, the most bravest girl I know. You'll do anything for your friends. So would he, she grimaced, avoiding the hermit's gaze. He's so loyal to Mr. A and RJ. He did anything they asked him to. Both shuddered at the girl's words as he pulled up a spare chair, sitting beside the girl. But that doesn't make you the same. You don't want to hurt people. He's done anything and everything to bring his victims what he felt they deserved. Kate closed her eyes, wrapping her arms around herself. I don't know. Maybe I can help, Impulse suggested, scooting closer to the girl. Like I did with Scar, teaching him to fight back against his nightmares. Jove won't let him go that easily, Kate said bitterly. She met his eyes for a moment before looking away. He's waiting for the perfect moment to crumble your attempt at helping him. He's a distant relative of a YouTuber. He's no match when we're at our full strength, Impulse encouraged. He wasn't able to touch Green when I reached him mentally, shielding him from the attacks. Kate smiled weakly. Think you can do the same for me? I have to try, Impulse insisted, looking over at Blake, who disappeared from the doorway. The boy returned a moment later, with the 2 headbands in hand. It was then Impulse noticed a few vials of blood were sitting on a testing contraption. Liam had constructed. Are you testing yourself? Like you said. Kate lowered her head. Impulse took the gadgets from Blake's outstretched hand. I have to try. She's making an army using Chara's blood, which she took from me. So many innocent people are being subjected to her experiments. Then let me help you, Impulse offered, holding out one of the headbands to her. Kate stared at it for a moment. This won't hurt, will it? She asked, glancing up at the hermit. I removed the electrical wires that in the contraption. Oh my goodness. You won't hear the hum when you put it on, but it does work as it's supposed to. Kate took the gadget from his hand, unclasping the headband. She peered at it for a moment before strapping it over her forehead. Impulse did the same as he closed his eyes. "Try to relax," Impulse suggested. Hearing the girl let out a sigh as Jelly continued to purr contentedly on her lap. Impulse reached out his mental hand through the headband, linking to the girl's gadget, entering her mind. Dark shadows engulfed him instantly, like a heavy winter blanket, suffocating under his weight. As he gasped, pushing his mind through as he found himself in a forested meadow, surrounded by bright blue orchids. Impulse? He whirled around to find Kate a few feet away, cloaked in shadows that seemed larger than she was. Her gray eyes were wide with surprise, fear. He stepped toward her. "Where is he?" Impulse cautioned, taking another step. "Gerald?" Kate's voice shook. "You're always here. I can't get away. Never." "But you did before," Impulse said gently, glancing around him. The darkness of the trees seemed almost like a heavy fog, lurking out of reach, but always there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "I gave you a chance to breathe away from him." Tears filled the girl's eyes as Impulse took another step toward her. She took a step back. "I can always hear him. I can tell when he's angry. I can tell when he's happy or pleased. I feel his emotions as if they were mine." "They are yours," a familiar voice whispered. Impulse tensed, hating how the voice made his skin crawl with goosebumps. He wanted to run. He wanted to fight. He couldn't let this man get away with hurting his friends, even if he was dead. He ought to say, "You're lying. You two are nothing alike." Impulse stepped beside the girl, feeling the shadows trickle his skin as they floated around the girl. Tickle his skin. It tickled. Kate stared into the darkness, color draining from her face. "You're more alike than you realize, Impulse," the man mused. "Said so yourself? Do whatever it takes to help our friends." "Unlike you, I don't hurt people for the fun of it," Impulse snapped. "For the fun of it?" Gerald boomed. "Do you think I've done all of this for the fun of it?" The man laughed before he added, "No, you were quite mistaken." Kate whimpered as she inched closer to the hermit. Impulse reached for her hand, which felt cold, stiff and cold. "What is it, then?" Impulse demanded. The coolness of the headband faded as the darkness drew closer. He could push it away. He could shield them both. But would it be enough when Gerald could teleport into the force field without concern of getting hurt this time? "You would never understand," Gerald chuckled, and the shadows began to dissipate, revealing the man before them. He was as tall, well-muscled, and bold as Impulse remembered him to be. The burn scars lined his face, making his stormy gray eyes spark in the shadows. "You wouldn't know what it's like to watch your close friends turn their backs on you, when all you were doing was trying to help." "You were friends with YouTubers?" Kate whispered, finally finding her voice again. Impulse squeezed her hand reassuringly. He wouldn't let her go. He wouldn't let her fight this alone. "I can hear your thoughts, just like she can," Gerald reminded the hermit. "I admire your noble desire to protect such a child, when her parents have done nothing but turn you away, after everything you did for them." Kate lowered her head as Impulse straightened. Robert was only doing what was best for his daughter, by leaving her alone with a pitiful amount of security, so that Rhinestone could swoop her up and take her away, when he was willing to hand her over to Mr. A because he believed it would keep her safe. "We aren't perfect," Impulse said matter-of-factly. "And yet..." Kate knows her father was not in the least grateful for what she did for him and his family. He was more than ready to forget he ever knew you, to leave you to your own mess and keep his daughter far away from you. Isn't that right, child?" Kate didn't look up as tears streaked her face. She was trembling, gripping tightly to the hermit's hand. She's braver than you'll ever be, and her father would no doubt be proud of that, Impulse stated firmly. His voice echoed around them, bouncing against the trees, sending wisps of shadow back. She isn't afraid to admit when she makes a mistake, and would do everything she could to make it right, even if it wasn't her fault. She isn't someone you can control, Gerald. She is her own person. She decides what she wants. And what does she want? Gerald taunted. Stop you, Kate whispered. Impulse glanced over, catching her eyes as he nodded. She lifted her head, rolling her shoulders back as the shadows around her began to thin. I'm not letting Rainstone get away with this. What she's doing. I don't care if you tell her. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop this. This isn't right. Such a pity. Gerald sighed. I could make you one of the most powerful people in the universe. I can make you unstoppable. If you just let me in. Never! Kate's eyes blazed with fury as a dome of flames surrounded the girl and Hermit, a glowing force field of pure light. And I won't let you hurt my friends. Leave them alone, or I'll come for you. I'll come and make sure there's nothing left of you. You can't reverse what's already been done, Gerald sneered, taking a step toward the force field, stopping short of its brilliant fiery light, just as I couldn't stop my pathetic charges from up and leaving me. I will find a way to make those pathetic friends of yours pay. Kate tensed as Impulse cleared his throat. I'd like to see you try. Gerald chuckled. I have an army I command. Far better than the ragtag group of friends you would ever be. They are willing and eager to finish you. Regardless of Rhinestone's wishes, we're coming for you. All of you. Kate gasped as the man vanished from view, the scene of the forest fading away. Impulse blinked, noticing something flicker into view. A man and a woman hovering over him. Two unfamiliar figures walking away from a locked door. Anger, pain, and fury filled him when the images faded in and out. They weren't his own. I beg to pay, and I'll make you pay. We will finish you. Gerald's final words faded away as Impulse opened his eyes, tearing away the headband. But he couldn't take the final image he'd seen. It'd been Kate's memory, etched with her own fear, along with Gerald's fury. It was Dr. Rhinestone, standing with two men, who looked nearly alike, as if they were brothers. Both were tall, broad-shouldered. One wore a leather jacket, and the other a white lab coat. But that wasn't what made all the color drain from his face. No, it was far worse than that. Impulse, are you okay? Kate asked worriedly. The hermit blinked, noticing the girl beside him. She'd thrown down her headband onto the ground, her gray eyes wide, beating its gaze. I'm fine, Impulse said shakily, as Blake appeared at the hermit's other side. Blake reached toward the hermit, feeling his forehead. You should go back to bed. Get back to bed. You're exhausted. No, Impulse shook his head. I don't even want to say that phrase. Impulse shook his head, closing his eyes, seeing the images of the faces of the man that had been there when Kate was exposed to lapse dust. Who were those men, Kate? Who? Kate asked, frowning. Was Dr. Rhinestone when you were being tested? Impulse, plainly. Richard and Andrew Jarkin, Kate replied, her brows furrowed. Why? Impulse groaned, putting his head in his hands. This is bad. What? What is it? Who are they? Kate insisted, grabbing onto the hermit's arm. A lump formed in Impulse's throat. Memories flooded back to him. Tango's screams, Grian's pleas, his helplessness to do anything but listen as RJ tortured them. Seeing Grian hovering over Scar after Mr. A and Gerald had been captured, The claws of the Eliminator reaching out to grab Impulse. The excruciating pain as the life was drained out of him. Impulse? This time it was Blake. Impulse lowered his hands as he looked over at his protector. What's wrong? It's them. Impulse managed to choke out. The world around him seemed to dim as the echoes of Tanker's tortured screams filled his mind again. You're free. Just like she said they would be. And that is where we're going to be ending this video. I'm sorry. But that is a cliffhanger. Yeah. Might be able to get 2 more episodes in this book, but we'll see. But yeah, maybe 1. Oh, 3 more chapters left after this one. But I'm going to end it there because that's a perfect cliffhanger. And yeah. I think you will enjoy what comes next. Albeit the next cliffhanger isn't going to be much better. Yeah. I will warn you. The next part will be intense. But you'll understand. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'm just weaving a story and just seeing how it goes. Like, technically, I finished what draft I have of Book 5, and I'm just every now and then checking it, making sure everything looks good, adding things, changing things. But we're getting to the point where we're going to be getting to that story, and who knows what's next. Whatever that story might be. Yes, I have an idea, but it's just an idea. But yeah, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that may be. Feel free to leave any theories, thoughts, reactions in the comments, or any ideas that you might have in the comments below too. That'd be very helpful. But yeah, that's up to you. That's totally fine. I'll see you guys next one. Goodbye.